Well, once again today we are joined by Sean Callahan, the publisher of HuskerOnline.com, as we talk Husker football with our HuskerChat as Nebraska's at home this week as they take on Illinois. Sean, as always, thanks for the time.
Hey, thank you, Jayson.
Well, let's dive into last week's game. We really weren't sure what to expect with Nebraska and Ohio State. We were hoping to see some improvement from the Big Red, and yeah, they came up short, but certainly Scott Frost's bunch showed that they're making some strides.
Yeah, no one ever wants to use the word moral victory, but that was as close as to a moral win as you could ever have. You look at the history of Urban Meyer versus Nebraska. In 3 previous meetings, Urban Meyer's average margin of victory was 42 points. And if you take the 2 Mike Riley games, it was closer to 50 points or more a game. No one really gave the Huskers a chance. And you have to credit Scott Frost the way he had that team ready. They drove down opening possession, scored. They drew up a perfect onside kick right after that would have worked. Only the kicker fell down and couldn't execute it. But talking to the coaches this week, it was wide open. I mean, if Caleb Lightbourne just puts that ball like he's supposed to, Nebraska could have an opportunity to have jumped up on Ohio State 14-0 or 10-0. Nonetheless, they got down 16-7, forced 2 turnovers to get up 21-16 at half. They really put pressure on the Buckeyes, and I think most notably, Adrian Martinez showed a lot of people around the country how good he's going to be, where I think before Saturday, there weren't a lot of people that really watched much of him on TV. That was the most viewed college football game in the afternoon on Saturday, so a lot of eyes got to see Adrian Martinez for the first time.
Talk a little bit about the job the coaching staff has done to keep this bunch together and to keep them fighting. And yeah, even though the record isn't where they wanted it to be, it looks like this is still a bunch that's giving Coach Frost 100% effort.
Yeah, the culture is very strong on this team, and I think a lot of that too is the fan base and the perception right now. I think in the past, if you had a team that's 2-7, you'd have former players jumping in with their opinions and putting pressure on it. You'd have a lot of fans really pressuring and putting Scott Frost more in a hot seat or whatever you want to call it, where I think everyone now understands what's going on. You have no outside former players, sharing their opinions. You don't have fans calling for anyone's heads. Everybody from the players to Coach Frost to the fans, to the media, former players, it's kind of all in unison right now, and I think it's kept this thing together despite the 2-7 record. And I think everyone's smart enough to know one thing. They've got a franchise-level quarterback that's getting better and better every week. And they've got 3 games now, Jayson, down the stretch, where if they win out, and there's people that think they can do that, they could get to 5-7, and there's probably going to be an opportunity for 2 to maybe 3 teams with 5-7 records to go to a bowl. So that's still out there for this team right now as they kind of look at their goals.
Do you think if Nebraska was sitting there at 5-7, they'd take the opportunity to go just to keep the momentum going and gain a couple more weeks of practice?
Oh, there's no doubt in my mind if they were able to get to that, but that would include beating Michigan State, beating Iowa. So there's a lot out there that they would have to do to get to that point, but there's no question Nebraska would want to do that if they got the opportunity to do it. And it's still based on your academic progress rate and other things. But yeah, that's kind of a carrot hanging out there for this team the last 3 weeks. And after Saturday's performance, a lot of guys think they can get it.
Today we're joined by Sean Callahan of HuskerOnline.com as we take a look back at Nebraska's game against Ohio State and the matchup this week against Illinois. And let's talk about the Illini, Sean. Not a whole lot was thought about this bunch when this season started. They've really struggled under Lovie Smith, but they come in 4-5, and they have to be feeling good about things after they smashed Minnesota.
Yeah, they had a decent non-conference as well, and they almost beat South Florida. They had South Florida on the ropes early in the year. But the biggest thing is Lovie Smith has kind of adjusted his offense to be more of a college-style offense with a run-pass option quarterback. And a guy named A.J. Bush, a lot of Nebraska fans remember from when he was here in Lincoln. But they've kind of just stayed the course. It by no means is a great team, but it's a team that has played well at times this year. And they got a huge win last week where Minnesota fired their defensive coordinator after the game. So they have come on as an offense. Now the defense for the Illini has really struggled, and I think that's going to be the matchup where if you're Nebraska, you've got to really go after Lovie Smith's defense and expose them, because nobody really has consistently stopped this Husker offense the last few weeks.
You mentioned A.J. Bush. He was in Lincoln. He's bounced around a little bit. He's kind of an interesting story, and to me, that's one of the storylines of this game, him coming back into Memorial Stadium and taking on the Huskers.
Yeah, from 2 years at Nebraska, 1 year at Iowa Western, 1 at Virginia Tech, and 1 at Illinois. I was joking to some guys this week, I want to see what his gear closet looks like, because he's got to have more gear than any guy in the country with all the different programs he's been a part of over his last 4 years. But you're happy for AJ, because he's a kid that probably never would have started at Nebraska. He knew that. He left and chased that dream, and here now he'll get an opportunity to start a game in Memorial Stadium, the place where he left to kind of pursue that dream of being a starting quarterback.
How do you think this kind of shakes out on Saturday? Could you see this being a bit of a shootout?
A little bit, yeah. A.J. Bush's mobility worries me a little bit, but I think Nebraska is going to be ready for it. I think this is a game they can win by 20-plus points. I know the spread's at 18, but with the way Nebraska's playing on offense, I just see Illinois having a hard time slowing the Huskers down.
All right. Hopefully we see a Husker victory on Saturday. Sean, as always, thanks a lot for the time.
Thanks, Jayson.
And that was Sean Callahan, the publisher of HuskerOnline.com. I'm Jayson Jorgensen.